Have you ever wondered why certain words, certain songs, certain numbers seem to follow you anywhere? Have you ever had the feeling that your life was not only a series of random events, but part of a bigger design? Listen to me well. It is no coincidence that you are here right now. There is a precise reason why you are reading these words. Something inside you is starting to awaken, and the world around you will never be the same again. For centuries, the truth has been hidden. They told us what to believe, what to see, what to hear. But few have understood that behind the veil of reality there is another level, a deeper truth that only a few manage to perceive. The Bible warns us, the God of this world has blinded the minds of the incredulous so that they do not see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ shine. 2 Corinthians 4:4. This means that there is a system built especially to keep people blind people, to prevent us from understanding who we really are. But now something is changing. Some are starting to see. Some are starting to hear the call. What if you were one of them? If everything you experienced until today had been a signal? If every experience, any doubt, every restlessness you have heard had been a part of the plan to bring you here, in this precise moment? It is no coincidence that you are here. You have been called. Today we will find out why. Today we will analyze the hidden signals that the chosen ones have received during the course of history, the frequencies that awaken the consciousness, the secret code that will help you understand your mission. But be careful. Once you know this truth, you will no longer be able to go back. Are you ready to see what few have seen? Are you ready to find out if you were chosen? If your answer is yes, then continue reading, because what is about to be revealed could change your life forever. Have you ever had the feeling that your life was guided by something bigger? That the events around you were not random, but rather pieces of a divine puzzle? Have you ever wondered why certain words, certain sounds, or certain symbols seem to hit you with a force that others do not perceive? If you are here reading these words, it's because it's not a coincidence. Nothing is by chance. The Bible teaches us that man's steps are directed by the Lord, Psalm 37:23. And if today your steps have brought you here, it is because you have been called. Perhaps throughout your life you have felt this strange feeling, an inexplicable restlessness, a thirst that seems nothing seems to appease. It is the signal. It is the call. The world tried to hide this truth. The company was built to distract you, to keep you busy with earthly problems, with superficial concerns, with empty goals that remove your gaze from what really matters. Think about how easily people let themselves be hypnotized by the monotonous flow of life. Waking up, working, paying bills, sleeping, repeating. In this cycle, authentic spirituality is suffocated, faith is relegated to a corner of the mind, and the voice of God is covered by the incessant noise of modernity. But God does not stop calling. Here, I am at the door and knock. If someone listens to my voice and opens the door, I will enter him, and I will have been with him, and he with me. Apocalypse 3:20. This means that despite everything, its call continues. And if you are reading these words, it's because you started to hear it. But how to recognize this call? How to know if you're really part of the chosen ones? There are signs, and these signals are everywhere, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. For centuries, sacred texts, prophecies, and even music have hidden messages intended only for those who were ready to receive them. Jesus himself spoke in parables so that only those who were spiritually prepared could understand his teachings. You are given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but it is not given to them. Matthew 13:11. This means that the truth is not revealed to everyone indiscriminately. It is hidden, like a buried treasure, reserved for those who are willing to dig, to seek, to follow the path of faith. So why do some feel this call and others don't? Why do some pass their entire existence without ever felt this spiritual restlessness, while others feel it burning within themselves like a fire that cannot be turned off? The answer is that not everyone is destined to awaken. Some will remain prisoners of the illusion because they have thus chosen. The truth can be uncomfortable. It can be difficult to accept, and many prefer to remain asleep rather than to face it. But whoever feels the call knows that he cannot ignore it. Every event in your life, Every experience you have lived, every verse of the Bible that resonated in your heart, was a piece in your path. I will instruct you and teach you the way you have to walk. I will advise you, I will have eyes on you. Psalm 32:8. This means that God is guiding you even when you don't notice it. And now, the choice is in your hands. Will you recognize the signals that have been sent to you? Will you accept the truth that God is trying to show you? Or you will choose to ignore it, returning to the world of illusions where it is easier not to think, not to look, not listen? Remember that the great men and women of the Bible, Abraham, Moses, Davide, Maria, Paolo, had to make a similar decision. All of them received a call. All of them had to choose. And now the question is, what will you do? Will you continue this path, discovering the signs of awakening that have been scattered in your life? Or will you close your eyes in front of the truth? Spiritual awakening is not a sudden event. It does not happen in an instant like lightning that pierces the sky. It is a process, a series of events, signs and revelations that follow one another over time, intertwining with our daily life. If you are here, if you have heard that profound feeling of being destined for something bigger, then you have probably already received some of these signals. And the truth is that God never stops talking to his children. The Lord speaks once, and even two, but the man does not mind us. Job 33:14. This means that the signs have always been there, but often we are too distracted to notice them. However, when the mind and the spirit begin to open, those signs become impossible to ignore. One of the most powerful signals that accompany the spiritual awakening is the feeling of being attracted by certain messages, certain numbers, symbols. It is not uncommon for the people who are going through this process begin to repeatedly see significant numbers, such as 1111, or to note words and phrases that seem to be written specifically for them. This is because the language of God is not always made of words, but also of signs and connections that speak directly to the heart. The Bible is full of examples of how God has used signs to guide his people: the column of fire that illuminated, the Via degli Israeliti in the desert, Exodus 13:21, the star that led the Magi to Jesus, Matthew 2:2, the dreams and visions that revealed the fate of men such as Giuseppe and Daniele. These signs are not random. They are divine tools for those who are ready to receive them. But it is not only the numbers and symbols that report the awakening. Often, those who are destined to awaken start to perceive a profound resonance with certain words, certain melodies, certain verses of the Bible. It is as if suddenly a phrase that you have heard 1,000 times in your life assumed a completely new meaning, as if it had been written on purpose for you. Have you ever listened to a song and feeling that he was talking exactly about your life, about your thoughts, your deepest questions? This is one of the most common signals. Music, with its vibration, has the power to touch the most intimate strings of the spirit, and it's no coincidence. Throughout the Bible, the music was used to connect with God. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, inhabitants of all the earth. Psalm 96:1. This means that notes, sounds, melodies can be tools through which the Lord speaks to us. And then there is that inexplicable sense of separation from the world. Another sign of awakening is when you start feeling different from others, as if you no longer believe to the reality that surrounds you. The superficial conversations seem to you without meaning. The habits that once gave you pleasure now seem empty. And within you, the desire for something deeper, more authentic, grows. This is exactly what happens to those who have been called. Jesus said clearly, "You are not in the world, but I chose you from the world." John 15:19. This means that those who are destined to awaken will always feel not to belong completely to this world, because they have been chosen for something bigger. But recognizing the signals is only the first step. The real awakening begins when you decide to listen to them, to follow them, to let your life be transformed by them. It is not an easy path, because it means abandoning many of the old certainties. It means letting go of what is familiar to follow a higher call. But it is precisely here that the real journey begins. So, the question is, do you have the courage to follow the signals, to respond to the call, to discover your real purpose? Because the next step is even deeper. It is the revelation of the activation code. There are things that most people don't know, information that have always been before their eyes, yet remain invisible. But who has ears to hear? Listen. Who has eyes to see? Look carefully. If you have come so far, it means that your awakening has already started. And now, it is time to understand a deeper mystery, something that only those who have been chosen can truly grasp. Have you ever noticed how some numbers seem to appear in your life more often than others? Have you ever had the feeling that certain melodies touched your soul in a way you can't explain? This is no coincidence. There is a code, a secret hidden among the folds of reality, and only those who are ready can decipher it. In the Bible, the numbers have always had a profound meaning. God used numbers to communicate spiritual truths and to mark key events in the history of humanity. The number 7 represents divine and completeness, Genesis 2:2. The number 40 is the symbol of test and transformation, Exodus 24:18. But there is another, more mysterious number, which in recent times has manifested more and more people: 11. The number 11 is associated with spiritual awakening, to the transition from one level of awareness to the other, at the time when the veil of the illusion begins to rise. It is no coincidence that many people refer to repeatedly 1111 on their watches, on documents, in the most unexpected moments. It is a signal, a call, an invitation to look beyond. But the activation code is not limited to numbers. It is engraved in frequencies, sounds, vibrations that resonate in the soul of those who have been called. This is why some people feel a deep connection with certain melodies, as if they had been written especially for them. This is because God designed music as a powerful spiritual tool. Do you remember how David used the harp to calm the tormented spirit of Saul? 1 Samuel 16:23. Music is not just entertainment, it is a bridge between the visible and the invisible. When you listen to a melody and feel your spirit vibrate, when the words of a song seem to talk to you directly, know that it is not a coincidence. It is a signal. It is the code that is activating within you. What many do not know is that there are specific frequencies that awaken human consciousness. In the scriptures, the sound of the shofar, the horn used by the ancient Israelites, was used to wake up the people, to announce the change, to prepare people for the revelation of God, Leviticus 25:9. Today, something similar is happening, but on a much larger scale. The vibrations of the world are changing, and those who have been chosen begin to hear it. Maybe you have already happened to try a strange attraction for sounds that you cannot explain, or to feel your energy to change when you listen to certain melodies. This is your spirit that responds to the call. Faith comes from hearing, and hearing comes from the Word of God, Romans 10:17. This means that there is a sound that activates faith, a vibration that opens the door to the truth. But here's the big question. What will you do with this knowledge? Now that you know that there is an activation code, now that you know that God is calling you through numbers, sounds, and words that seem written especially for you, will you ignore these signals, or do you choose to follow them? Remy Ember. Awakening is not a game. Once you start seeing the truth, you can no longer go back. The world in which we live has been designed to distract you, to make you believe that none of this is real. But those who have faith know that another reality is hidden behind the veil of illusion. And those who have faith also know that God has left signs for those who want to find them. Are you ready to discover why the world was built to keep us asleep? Then prepare. Why what will come after everything will change. Have you ever been attacked by the feeling that there is something deeply wrong in the world? As if everything that has been taught you, everything you have always believed was reality. Was it actually a great staging? If you have had this feeling, know that you are not alone. And also know that this feeling is not a mistake. It is a signal. It is a call. Jesus himself warned us that the world is full of deception, that there is an invisible system designed to keep people away from the truth. Know that the whole world lies under the power of the evil one, 1 John 5:19. This means that the reality that surrounds us was built with a single purpose, to keep us asleep. But who created this illusion? And above all, why? The answer is located in the Bible, in the story of the fall of humanity. When Adam and Eve sinned, the whole world was placed under a new authority, that of sin and deception. Satan, who is called the prince of this world, John 12:31, has built a perfect system to maintain human beings distracted, far from God, unaware of their true spiritual nature. And he did it with cunning. It has not simply imposed us with physical chains because those would see each other too easily. No, he created an invisible prison, made of ideologies, entertainment, constant distractions, unbridled materialism. He created a system in which the truth is buried under layers of lies, in which the sound of the world suffocates the voice of God. Think about this. How many times have you seen someone talk about God on television, in movies, in advertising? How much space does faith have in the modern world? If you've never asked yourself this question, stop for a moment and reflect. The system was built to make God a marginal idea, something that is not placed in real life. Still, all our being was created to look for it. You did our heart for you, and our heart has no peace until it rests in you. Sant'Agostino. This means that the void that many people feel within themselves, that feeling of incompleteness, dissatisfaction, is nothing more than the result of this forced separation from God. And it is not only a spiritual question. Physical reality was also built to hide the truth. Why do you think the Bible talks so often about veils that cover people's eyes? But their minds were made obtuse. In fact, until today, the same veil remains raised to the reading of the Old Testament, because it is in Christ that is removed. 2 Corinthians 3:14. This means that there is a real veil that prevents people from seeing reality for what it is. And the most important question is, how can this illusion be broken? The answer is only one: through Jesus Christ. He is the key, the way, the truth, and life. John 14:6. Only those who are willing to look beyond appearances can glimpse the world for what they really are. Only those who are ready to let go of the lies on which their existence has been built can receive the light of truth. But it's not an easy path. Anyone who begins to wake up is immediately seen as a stranger, a different, someone who does not adapt. And this is normal. Jesus said, "If you were in the world would love what is his. But since you are not in the world, indeed I have chosen you from the world. For this the world hates you." John 15:19. This means that the price of awakening is often the misunderstanding, solitude, even the refusal by others. But it's a price that is worth paying. And now the question is, are you willing to open your eyes? Are you ready to see reality for what it really is? Even if this means abandoning the false certainties you have always had. Because once you start seeing, you can no longer stop seeing. And when the veil falls, when you start walking in the light of truth, your path takes a new direction. And this is where the next step comes into play, the path of the chosen one. Awakening is not the end of the journey. It is only the beginning. Once you opened your eyes to the truth, once you recognized the signals, perceived the call, and glimpsed the illusion of the world, an inevitable question arises. And now? What happens after you realized you have been chosen? What is the next step? The answer is simple and at the same time complex. You have to walk. You have to travel the path of the chosen one. But be careful, because this path is not for everyone. It is tight, it is difficult, it is full of tests, and few are the ones who find it. Enter the narrow door, because the door is wide and the way that leads to perdition, and many are the ones who enter there. How close the door is and the road that leads to life is instead, and few are the ones who find it. Matthew 7:13-14. But what does it mean to walk on this street? It means abandoning the idea of being like everyone else. It means accepting that you can no longer live according to the rules of this world, because now you know that this world is a lie. It means dedicating your life to the search for God, of truth, of your true purpose. Think of Moses. He was a prince of Egypt. He had everything the world could offer. But when God called him, he had to leave everything behind and follow the path that had been traced to him, Exodus 3:10. And so it was for every great man and woman of the Bible. None of them had an easy life. None of them remained comfortable in his habits. because following God means giving up the comfort of illusion to embrace the reality of faith. But how do you travel this path? There are stages, passages that each chosen one has to cross. The first is the inner transformation. When you start to wake up, you realize that something changes within you. Your desires are no longer the same. What first seemed important to you now appears insignificant. Empty conversations bore you. The old dreams lose meaning and a single thirst grows within you, that of knowing God deeper. This is the first sign that your spirit is taking a new direction. If therefore one is in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things have passed, here they have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. This means that the old you are dying and a new you are being born. But the inner transformation inevitably leads to another stage, the test. Every man or woman who was called by God had to cross moments of difficulty. Abraham had to leave his land without knowing where he would go, Genesis 12:1. Giuseppe was sold by his brothers and lived years of suffering before seeing God's plan to realize himself in his life, Genesis 50:20. Even Jesus spent 40 days in the desert, facing the temptation before starting his ministry, Matthew 4:1-11. And so it will be for you. If you have chosen to walk on this street, know that there will be evidence. There will be times when you feel alone, misunderstood, abandoned. But know this too. Each test makes sense. Every difficulty is a preparation. Blessed is the man who perseveres in the test, because after passing it, he will receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised those who love him, James 1:12. And finally, there is the last stop, the mission. God never calls someone without a purpose. If you have received this call, it means that you have a task to perform. Perhaps it is to spread the truth, to be a guide for others who are looking for answers. Perhaps it is to live in such a way that your own existence is a testimony of the power of God. Whatever your mission, know this: you are not alone. God walks with you. I am with you every day until the end of the present age, Matthew 28:20. This means that even in the most difficult moments, even when you seem to not see the road in front of you, the Lord will be by your side. And now the question is, are you ready to take this path? Are you ready to leave the illusions behind, to bear the tests, to find out what is the mission you have been chosen for? Because once you took this path, there is no more way of going back. And the next step is the most important of all, the final decision. Here you are. You saw the signals. You understood the truth hidden behind the illusion of reality. You started walking on the path of awakening and felt deep in your spirit that something inside you is changing. But now, the most difficult moment comes. Now comes the biggest test, because knowing the truth is not enough. Being called is not enough. You have to choose. You have to make a decision, and once you take, you can no longer go back. The world is not a neutral place. Every day, every moment, you are placed in front of a choice: to live according to the truth or return to lie. It is easy to think that one can remain in an intermediate area, that a sort of balance can be maintained between light and darkness, between faith and illusion. But this is impossible. Jesus was clear when he said, "Nobody can serve two masters, because he will have one and love the other, or he will be faithful to one and despise the other." Matthew 6:24. This means that in the end, everyone must choose which side to stay on. And the truth is that this choice is not easy. The world will not encourage you to follow the narrow street. Indeed, he will do everything to convince you to give up. He will tell you that you are exaggerating, that you have become too fanatic, that there is no need to take everything so seriously. It will offer you all kinds of distraction, temptation, convenience to bring you back, to make you fall asleep. And many will fall into this trap. The Bible warns us that many are called but few elected, Matthew 22:14. And this means that not everyone will be brave enough to take the definitive step. But you who have heard the call, that you recognized the signs, that you perceived the truth behind the illusions, what will you do? You will be stopped, waiting for something to change alone, Or will you make your decision today, here and now? Because there is no better time than this. Every great man and woman of God had a moment in his life in which he had to make a choice. Abraham had to leave everything to follow the voice of God, Genesis 12:1. Moses had to challenge Egypt's power to free his people, Exodus 3:10. Pietro had to abandon his boat to follow Jesus, Matthew 4:19-20. And now it's your turn. Here is the truth. Once you have received this call, you can no longer ignore it. You can no longer pretend you don't know. Your spirit has already changed, and it will never return to being the first one. The question is only one. What will you do with this change? You will accept the mission you have been chosen for, or will you try to go back to the old life, knowing, however, that you will never really be the same? Because now you are aware. Now you know there is something more. Now you know that there is a path that awaits you, and therefore here you are in front of the most important decision of your life. Will you remain in the illusion, or will you follow the truth to the end? Because time holds. The opportunities do not last forever. The call will not be eternal. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts, Jews 3:15. The door is open, but it won't be forever. Are you ready to cross it? Are you ready to live the life you have been created for? Because the time of choice is now. Now you know. You saw the signals. You heard the call. You recognized the illusion and understood that there is a path reserved for a few. But all this has no value if you do nothing. Because knowing the truth is only the beginning. The real question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Many will receive this message and choose to ignore it. Too difficult, too demanding, too uncomfortable. But you who have come here, what will you choose? Are you ready to leave the old world behind and walk in the truth? Are you ready to live according to your real purpose? If yes, write in the comments, I choose the truth. I want to know who among those who listen to this message is ready to take the first step. Do not forget to enroll in the channel and activate notifications, because in the next videos we will deepen the hidden mysteries of the faith and the mission of those who have been chosen. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video. The next step is in your hands. The door is open. Are you ready to cross it? See you in the next video. I am Jose. May God guide you.